Hey, hey, what is up, spiritual hooligan? Are you on the path towards enlightenment? I think you are. The very fact that you're watching or listening to this message is evidence that you're being drawn into the ultimate state of consciousness, that sort of top of the mountain for humankind today. And over the last 2 decades, I've discovered that there are 4 stages that a person like you or I goes through. And today I want to share what those 4 stages are to help you to see where you are so you can work on what's next. And this is different than the 4 stages that I talked about in December. I want to take you to a whole new way of thinking about it. My name is Matthew Ferry, and I'm bringing you your daily enlightenment. It's your moment to pause, to slow down, to get connected to enlightened perspectives. I want to help you to quiet your mind and restore your peace. So I want to start with this idea. Enlightenment is not a place. It's not a destination. It's a perspective. You're never going to get there. You're never going to arrive. You're going to adopt a perspective, and then that perspective is going to deepen and deepen and deepen and deepen. You're going to get more and more clear about reality, and it really is the perspective that all is well. It's this recognition that the source of life for you is the source of life for everyone and everything. And if that's the case, there's nothing to worry about. That we are all one thing expressing itself with infinite variety. And if that's the case, there's nothing to resist. Now, there are 4 stages that people go through as they ascend into greater and greater states of enlightened consciousness. And this is typically through maybe some kind of religious affiliation, or a lot of people doing it in the personal development process. So depending on your level of consciousness, you're going to be drawn into the process in one of these 4 stages, and then you'll begin to ascend from there. In essence, you will be compelled to move from survival consciousness into enlightened consciousness. And this enlightened state might also be thought of as the process of purifying or purity of consciousness. So this is a process basically of declaring and remaining sovereign over your body, your mind, your energy system, and your soul. So let's talk about this progression. The first one, the first place that people go is mental control. And mental control is actually very, very effective, and I highly recommend that you take on things to control your mindset, to control your mind. But it is really just the first stage. It's sort of the entree into the process. And you're going to find people talking about affirmations and goals and visualizations and things like that. And this is where I meet most people, and I'm excited about helping you to transcend and go to the next level. Now, there's a second level, and that is emotional control. And this second stage of your ascension, where you say, okay, my mind is really bugging me, that's one thing, right? But then, how do I get my emotions under control? That's really the second stage of your ascension process. And that's you practicing non-reaction, non-resistance, understanding emotional triggers. This is where recontextualization fits into the picture. And this unlocks your ability to stay in an enlightened state, because you've got to be able to recontextualize, and you've got to actually be intentional about your non-reaction. Otherwise, you invoke survival consciousness, and boom, you go right out of the enlightened state back into your survival state. The third stage of ascension here is spiritual control. Now, spiritual control has to do with chakras, aura, personality, and soul. And I know that that's for some people, they have all kinds of ideas about what those things mean. But really what we're talking about is the electromagnetic system of your body. So you want to think about it in this way. There is strong and weak forces, mysterious strong and weak forces, that are occurring in the quantum field. This is a background field of energy and information that is pervasive throughout the universe. It is omnipresent. All things are an expression of that. Those strong and weak forces are self-organizing into subatomic particles. Those subatomic particles are self-organizing into atoms. Those atoms into molecules and cells and things and everything that we are. And when you're dealing in the realm of your spiritual process, you're dealing with your relationship to that self-organizing state in the chakras, in the aura, in the personality, and in the soul. And I know I'm mixing a little metaphors here with Eastern and Western, but over time, utilizing the muscle testing process, we've been able to discern that those are the four things that you deal with in spiritual control. So you're doing things like meditation, you're doing chakra balancing, you're managing your energetic state, you're probably very deeply into healing modalities. You'll see that I have a lot more to say about that stage of ascension, but I want to take you all the way into the fourth stage, which is restoring purity of consciousness. Now, not a lot of people talk about this. When I dig deeply into the spiritual text, you kind of get hints about this. I remember my mentor, Dr. Hawkins, right here's his book right in front of me, the I in this moment. That's probably the one that I read the most. When I would tune into Dr. Hawkins, I would get this idea that there was something else going on, but he wasn't really explicit about it. And I made the decision that I was going to be explicit with not only with myself, but with my students about what does this mean to restore the purity of consciousness. And really what it is you restoring wholeness and integrity in your soul through all time. So it's like working on removing the biases of legacy information. And you come in a certain way. So you come in and it's like you're predisposed to certain things, and there's all this legacy information. And some of that legacy information might be karma. So karma is really old patterns of suffering that influence our perception, our emotion, our actions. I'm just going to call it outdated information. Karma, intentions, vows, purposes, negative thoughts are probably the most karma-creating part of our entire system. But this information is actually stored in the energy and information stream, and then it is somehow a part of our actual physical system, and it's in your consciousness. Now, again, I ended up using muscle testing to pierce the veil of denial and start to see what was it that was actually going on here. Why is it that my mind was still talking, even though I had really done so much work in the spiritual realm? What was still causing this talking? And it turns out that it is outdated, let's call it contamination, right? That's not the right word, but it's like that. It's like your soul is distorted and contaminated. Your energy and information stream is contaminated. So it's this fear of not getting what you want, the fear of not getting what you need to survive. And that blinds us. It blinds us, and we don't realize that we're operating out of integrity. So I'll wrap it up by saying this. From a neutral state, if we go through this ascension of process, you work on your mental, then you move up and you start to work on your emotions. Then you move, I guess I'm going down, aren't I, if you're watching me. So you work on your mental, then you move up and you go into your emotional. Then you move up and you go into your spiritual. Then you move up and you go into your purity of consciousness zone. Ultimately, what you're working on is you're working on becoming neutral. And when you get into this neutral state where everything is just aligned, you've restored or you're in the process of restoring integrity to your system. Well, now you're able to unlock your full potential here on Earth, right? And that means that suddenly you are much more bold, right? Nothing's holding you back. Nothing is pushing you in weird directions. You know how there's those things in your life where you're just like, why did I do that? What is going on with me? There's nothing filtering your perception. You're seeing things as they are. Nothing is making you afraid because you're recognizing your infinite nature. It's just you, all you. There's nothing but you. There's nothing distorting you. It's a really great space to be. So that's the question that I have for you. What stage of ascension are you in right now? Because each one is important. Each one is valuable. They build on each other. Are you in the mental stage, the emotional stage, the spiritual stage, or are you working on purity of consciousness? Will you put it down in the comments? Let me know what you got going on. My name is Matthew Ferry, author of Quiet Mind, Epic Life, and I really want you to like this video. You watched it all the way through, okay? Because you're watching it all the way through. Will you like the video? Will you share the video? Will you leave me a comment? Those are the things that tell YouTube that this is a valuable piece of content that other people should be watching. So it makes a difference for me, but it also makes a difference for all of our other spiritual hooligans out there in the world, because then they find us. Now, if you dig this, I encourage you to leave me a comment, of course, but also will you subscribe to my channel, and will you press the bell button so that you get notifications? And then consider coming over to the Spiritual Hooligan Facebook group, because there's a whole bunch of crazy people over there like you and I, and we are bantering and chatting and supporting each other and loving on each other and challenging each other, communing in that group. I'll put the link below. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Daily Enlightenment.